Americans are unfortunately ignoring coronavirus and the devastating surge that we're experiencing throughout the country. It's tearing through the country, and as a result, the death rate is also climbing. But that didn't deter travelers from flying over the weekend. More than 3 million Americans traveled over the weekend, and the number of people traveling is likely to spike during the holidays. So the surge in travelers and subsequent increase in cases is expected to keep happening, continuing throughout the holidays. More than 1 million air travelers passed through security checkpoints at US airports Friday and Sunday for only the second and third time since the pandemic began. And that's according to the TSA. Sunday was the single busiest day at airport checkpoints since March. Saturday, the travel numbers neared 1 million, bringing the 3-day total to more than 3 million passengers. So the spike is pretty serious. New cases, for instance, of coronavirus in the United States have skyrocketed to all-time highs, averaging more than 170,000 per day, and deaths have soared above 1,500 a day. If you guys can recall, not too long ago, the average was about 1,000 deaths a day. And now, unfortunately, it has spiked to 1,500 a day, the highest level since the spring. The virus is also blamed for more than 250,000 deaths and more than 12 million confirmed infections in the US. And so there have been some actions throughout the country. So for instance, in California, Los Angeles County specifically, outdoor dining was allowed, but beginning Wednesday of this week, they will no longer allow that. Restaurants can only operate on a takeout and delivery basis. In Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian has been shut down, and so has the National Zoo. I think that these are just common sense actions to take, but people are experiencing COVID fatigue and really want to see their families. And so despite the CDC warnings, people are still traveling, and we're likely to continue seeing this upward trend of new coronavirus cases and deaths.
So throughout, I've been telling you that, look, it's super important that you take the precautions. But once you take the precautions, don't freak out and have it like ruin your life because you're living in constant fear. So it requires a balancing act, and I know people don't like balancing acts. They want black and white answers. But so in this context, is it getting worse? There's no question. Numbers, I know we're now leaving the Trump era, so I guess I'm hoping we'll go back to not arguing over numbers, though I hope the war on math has concluded. So one thing I'll draw your attention to in the numbers, though, we exceeded the record number of cases a long time ago, about like a month ago now. And now we're double the number of cases we used to have in the beginning, but we just passed the record for number of deaths. And so why did it take so long? First of all, cases don't turn into deaths until later, obviously, because it takes a little while for people to get sick and then not be able to recover. But the second reason is because mortality has gone down for coronavirus since the beginning. So cases are still going up, but mortality rates are lower. But nonetheless, there's so many cases, we still broke the record on number of deaths. So all that nonsense that Trump had said about we're turning the corner, none of that is true. So how does it play out? So if you're lucky enough to live in an area where it's warm enough and you want to meet with a limited number of family members outside, have like maybe separate tables, you really can do that. If you want to meet with people and wear masks inside, you can do that. The masks are effective enough for that. If you want to travel and you really got to travel and you wear the mask the whole time, it's obviously it's up to you guys. You're taking chances with it. I wouldn't travel at this point. Actually, I just marked my 1-year anniversary of not getting on a plane, which seems unimaginable to me because I used to probably take about 25 plane trips a year before, 0 in the last year, because it just wasn't safe enough. And in my opinion, it's not quite safe enough yet. And guys, remember the vaccine now is definitely coming, and that's not in dispute anymore. We're all tired of it. No one's happy about coronavirus. I'm tired of wearing the mask. I want to eat it at a restaurant. I want to do all those things. I've told you that 1,000 times, right? But we just have to be, not like, we don't have to be bubble wrapped, but we do have to take those minimum precautions very seriously as the cases are raging right now before the vaccine comes. And again, the vaccine is about 3 to 4 months away. It's not that far, so hang in there. And I love Thanksgiving, and not being able to come together with all of your family indoors is super tough, but we gotta go through just a little bit longer before we get to the other side.
And Cenk, I just want to end on a graph that was put together by Johns Hopkins University because it's jarring. It's jarring, and it goes to what you were saying earlier regarding the United States versus other countries. So the green line represents the United States and how it's doing relative to other countries regarding confirmed coronavirus cases. So you can see that green line. It's very steep. It moves sharply toward the beginning of November, whereas other countries, are either flatlining or decreasing. For anyone who might argue that the United States is in no worse a situation than other countries, they're absolutely lying. All the data proves otherwise, and it's because we went from having a tiny amount of action related to the pandemic by the Trump administration to now Trump completely abandoning any and all responsibilities. The only thing that he's been doing since losing the general election is golfing. That's what he's been up to. And Americans are paying the price for this lack of leadership.
And to be fair, he was also trying to do a political coup, and that was keeping him busy. My favorite part of that was Kayleigh McEnany saying, no, he invited the Michigan state legislators because he, from time to time, talks to state legislators. Oh, come on. Okay, oh yeah, it was random that they were a swing state who was about to certify the election. So no, he was busy worrying about himself as always and not busy worrying about you. That chart is absolutely indicative. And for those of you who live outside the country, a lot of you watch the Young Turks and are amazed to find out what happens inside America. You almost can't believe it, but it's true. For those of you who live in America, you're getting a completely different view than the rest of the world has. So the rest of the world all believes in climate change because there's no one who is doing a multi-billion-dollar propaganda efforts like the oil industry is here, and they haven't. Other countries don't allow bribery to be legalized and out in the open. So ExxonMobil can't just go give a bag full of money to their politicians. Here they can. They just give them the money and they say campaign contributions or independent expenditures, millions, billions of dollars overall, and they buy all of our politicians. So you don't understand that the rest of the world already knows climate change is 1000% real, it's man-made, and we've got to act urgently. Here in America, we're like, I don't know, maybe the sky's blue and maybe it isn't. And same with coronavirus. The rest of the world knows when they got to lock down. Even Sweden has said, okay, it's over, we were wrong. We've got to lock down right away. So you see their numbers moving up a tiny bit, but when they do, they immediately go to precautions and measures. It's not debated in the rest of the world. Here in America, half the country thinks it's fake. I mean, that South Dakota nurse, people dying on their deathbeds are saying, why won't you give me the magic cure? Trump told me all of this was fake. None of that is true. Half the country here has lost their minds, so they walk around completely maskless, indoors, outdoors, small gatherings, large gatherings, and so it rages in America because one party completely lies to their voters about things that are indisputable. And it's really an Alice in Wonderland situation here where we live in this, it's almost like it's a Hollywood set. You know, like those old Westerns, but you would go around the side and realize there are no buildings there. They were just cardboard cutouts. So half of this country is told a story that isn't remotely true, and they totally believe the fiction, the movie, as if it were real life. So that's why we have it raging here, because no one will listen to scientists or doctors in 50% of the country. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.